So today I want to talk about prediction errors. I specifically want to talk about the bias versus variance conflict. Now, some of you might be thinking, "Hey, this is something for quants or for machine learning type people," but I really think all of us, whether we're quants or we're fundamental analysts, should be thinking about this. Ultimately, we're all trying to predict the future of asset returns, right? And those predictions have errors, right? We're not perfectly predicting returns, so we should all be thinking about this. So one kind of error you can make is called the bias error. Really, this is a question of being precise but not accurate, right? And you can kind of see this depicted on this in this picture here, where we're really close, but we're always off by the same amount. This could be caused by some erroneous assumptions. It could be caused by a selection issue. That is, you're only looking at a small portion of the market, et cetera. Now, another type of error is called a variance error, and this is kind of the opposite, where you're accurate but you're not precise, right? So you're in the right spot, but there's too much variance there, right? This could be due to just sensitivity of the inputs and the signal there. Could also be caused by noise, and we all know there's a lot of noise in the asset markets. Now, there's something else we should consider here, which is called the irreducible error, right? And this is really kind of a question of how difficult the prediction is, right? Some problems are easier, some are are more difficult. That usually has to do with complexity of the data. Is it chaotic? Are we only looking at partial observation? Things of that nature will also make the problem more or less difficult. Now we can put these all together to come up with kind of a total error. In fact, there's an equation for it if we want to formalize that in terms of what's causing these errors. So now that we have that information, then we can think about how we can make these errors smaller, right? So one thing we could do here is we could just make the model more and more complex, kind of understand the data better and better. And what we find out here is that as we make the model more and more and more complex, that bias error gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So we get more and more accurate. Okay. Unfortunately, when we do that, then the variance error tends to increase. And we ultimately have kind of this perfect trade-off where we have this ultimate optimal level of complexity for the model for our particular problem. So keep this in mind, as again, whether you're a quant or you're a fundamental guy, how much data are you using? What kind of craziness are you incorporating into the model, or you're being too simple? So think about that and try to come up with that optimal level of data and inputs and models and things of that nature. Now, if we want to look at this kind of in graphical form, it might be something like this. So if we look at the chart here on the left, it's very simple, just a simple linear model. But this is probably going to be, it's a little bit underfitting the data. We've had the bias error is high there, right? We can go to the chart all the way on the right here. This one here, we're overfitting the data. It has, the bias error has gone down, but the variance is high. And we might have something like in the middle chart here, where we have a pretty good balance between the two, where balance between the bias error and the variance error, and then the total error is minimized. I also want you to think about, from a quant perspective, in sample versus out of sample. So if you look at that chart on the right, that's something where kind of in sample, you've perfectly fit the data, and then out of sample, your results are going to be pretty bad in general. So think about that simplicity, complexity balance. Think about overfitting, underfitting your data. Think about in sample, out of sample, and think about, as a fundamental guy or gal, how you can do a better job of making predictions given this type of information. Can you add some complexity to your models that get you closer to that good balance and something where you're not underfitting as much? Now, we will talk about in a subsequent video about ensemble methods, which is a way to kind of deal with this conflict. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much. I'm Brian Kozlowski.